You want to take it, Dukes? You want me to take it?
It still says off air, Bobby, on my
We're
phone.
live now, bro. I got
Okay, just
live.
went live. I just got it. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Dugan here for the humble captain, Bill Gustin, whose camera is as old as he is and is having problems. So hopefully Bill will be joining us very soon from there. We are happy today to be talking with you about vehicle fires in parking garages and some of the things that we can get to there. We will introduce our panel in a moment, but first I'd like to say thank you to Key Hose for sponsoring this. Keyfire.com, just a great company, and we appreciate all their support. We are going to be talking about these parking garages and what can go on and the problems we can have. So I'd like to introduce our panel first with the boss and the man who brought us all here to be together, Bobby Halton. Bobby, please.
Hi. Well, certainly not the boss. Just an insignificant member of the team. But thank you so much, Mike, and welcome everybody. And thank you, Key Hose. What an incredible partner. We sure do appreciate your sponsorship of this and your support at FDIC and fire engineering and fire rescue and fire apparatus, emergency equipment, all the other great stuff you help us with. So, hey, one of the things we want to throw out real quick before we begin, we got a great workshop. If you're interested in this topic, which is going to be, it's called Incident Management and Underground Transportation Systems. But some of our tactics and some of the stuff we're going to be talking about obviously correlates pretty directly to, parking garages, underground situations, what we're talking about, vehicle fires. But so what's interesting is the focus on this one is going to be underground transportation systems, man's largest buildings, safety factors, installations. What's really cool about this class, and I don't know if a lot of folks know it, but the guy teaching it, his name is Mark Vogt, and he's out of Switzerland. And in Switzerland, because they have a lot of tunnels in that area, and the highway system does, they do an incredible amount of research on how to manage vehicle fires and incidents, transportation incidences below grade and inside of confined built-up structures like tunnels and garages and such. So these folks have done a ton of research on it. They've got a ton of experience. They bring a ton of alternative tactics, and they're really decent people. So it's a great workshop that you could attend, and it's actually Monday, 8 a.m. At FDIC. So if you're looking for a really good workshop, it's Incident Management and Underground Transportation Systems. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today, like, standpipe operations for this kind of stuff, how to get to the fire, how to stop it from spreading, what to do with the fuel, things of that nature that we're going to hit today, how, ventilation issues and these kinds of events. It correlates directly to these people's research. And if you have a tunnel, like Michael does in New York City, you got the Holland Tunnel, you got several tunnels. Colorado's got several tunnels, and we got other tunnels all throughout the country. Very important class, because knowing what to do is going to fall on us, right? So really good stuff. So thank you so much for being here. As Mike said, we're just going to introduce the panel, and FDIC Early Bird is good for another 22 days, and you can save a boatload of money. And the other thing to remember is if your job is sending 5 or 6 or 7 of you, sign up as a group. That group pricing can also save you a boatload of money. And it's always fun to travel to FDIC with a group of friends, because you can split up and take different classes and just have a great time. So look at that group pricing. It goes for like groups of 5 and 10 and up through the system. And a group could be a department, it could be an association, it could be, you could be the Knights of Columbus or the Sisters of Mercy or the Daughters of Italy, whatever group you belong to. So you could be friends of Bill, Gustin, that is. Just kidding. So we can, we'd be happy to see that. And by the way, the Friends of Bill, which is an AA group, it's Alcoholics Anonymous, we will be having our meetings at FDIC, and those will be posted. We have a meeting every day at FDIC for those of us who go to meetings, and you can go to a meeting, and so you don't have to miss a meeting if you're on the road, and we're really proud that we do that at our conference, because that's an important part of sobriety and people maintaining their sobriety. We take that very seriously. So we do have a Friends of Bill meeting, and it's posted. It's in the show guide, and it's got great signage, and it's run by a really great group. So and it's well attended. So you'll be amongst some really great friends, and I'll see you there.
Okay, thank you, boss. And he is the boss, whether he wants to admit it or not. But thank you, Bobby. And Clark, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Captain Clark Lamping with the Clark County Fire Department here in Las Vegas. I'm currently on truck 11 today. I am on duty, so fingers crossed that we don't get a run. Our engine company's out at an elevator training class, so it's just me holding down mighty Station 11. Everything's good in Vegas. Construction's booming. A lot of heavy equipment rolling around, so we just started up our technical rescue team again. So that's really exciting. Confined space, trench rescue, vehicle extrication, heavy machinery extrication, ropes, high-angle rescue type stuff like that. So we're going to begin a pretty comprehensive training program on that. We're real excited about here. And about today's topic, parking structure fires. I do have a lot of experience with parking structure fires all up and down Las Vegas Boulevard. We fought multiple fires, so I'm really interested in finally having a conversation that I can contribute to today. Thanks, Cap.
No problem. Jason, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Jason Holman, Battalion Chief with the Florissant Valley Fire Protection District in North St. Louis County and co-owner of Engine House Training. And it's a pleasure to be back with everybody. And just an interesting note with Key Hose, I get to teach all over the state and go to different firehouses, and I can't tell you how much Key Hose I'm seeing in all these different firehouses and on fire apparatus. But to the garage fires, we're a bedroom community. We don't have a lot of underground parking lots. Where I used to work, we had a university that we did have some of those, but my experience is kind of limited on that. I've only been to one fire in a parking garage, so I'm going to be dependent on you guys to carry the conversation, but I'm looking forward to learning something today.
Great. Sam.
And how is everyone this afternoon?
Good.
I'm a lieutenant with Wichita Fire, and hopefully Clark is going to carry us. I don't have a lot of experience with parking garages. More than happy to share thoughts on car fires in general, but I think we should leave it to the people that have had that experience and give them the opportunity to share with us to make us better.
Okay. And I think we have the old captain joining us as incognito as Nick.
But I don't know that you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
We got you, Bill.
I've got a couple things here. I am the old. Yeah, cut that one down.
I think you got to shut off the other computer, Bill. You're getting backfed.
Keep going, Mike. Keep going. We're still working on it.
Okay. Keep working on it, Bill. Thank you. So we're going to talk about underground parking garages. I have had some experience in parking garages and underground fires. With that, there are quite a few of them in the city of New York, and they can be very, very, very difficult fires. The couple of experiences I had, one was we went down 3 levels down to a car fire. And of course, the cars are so close together that it auto exposed a couple of other cars going with it. And we ended up having 4 vehicles going at the same time. And the smoke condition was unbelievable. And just finding the cars. And that was one of the ones I had. And another one I had, we had a valet, a guy parking the cars, trapped down in the bottom of the staircase in the underground parking garage. There can be a life hazard down here. So these are things that we have to think about when we go in and fight these fires. There's a lot of things to think about. Now, in the city of New York anymore, they're required to be sprinkler protected. But back in the day, they weren't all sprinkler protected. So now we want to think about what's going on, the smoke, the relief of members, how far down they're going, and how we're getting them down there. Are we sending them down the ramps? Are we sending them down the staircases? Is there a standpipe? What are we using to fight this fire? If it's a sprinkler, it's going to be cold smoke. We've got to rotate our people in and out. So these are all things that are part of what we have to think about as we're doing this. So I would like to turn it over to Clark and ask about some of his experiences with these things.
We don't, a couple of our parking structures, Captain Dugan, are underground. Most of them are above ground, and some of them are actually split, 5 levels above ground, 3, 4 levels below ground. I agree with what you say. When you're fighting a fire in a garage, it's going to be a delayed response. So you're going to need to expect multiple cars burning by the time you get there. Now, what we do is above garage fires, we always drop bag. Absolutely positive, we always drop bag. Very few of our above ground parking structures are sprinklered, but they do have a dry standpipe in them. And, typical problem, in fact, worse problems than in a hotel standpipe, you're missing caps all the time. You have valves open all the time with these systems. So that is about plan D or E for us. So plan A is drop bag. We immediately recon. We've got some very, very large parking structures. So first engine company comes in, he relies on the information the security gives him, and he ascends and tries to locate the car. And other units stage around the parking structure to see if they'll have better access somewhere else. So once we locate where the actual vehicle is, then the officer will determine what side of the building he's going to drop bag to. He'll call his engine company over and pull up close, and he'll throw a rope down to the engine company, the engineer who will tie off. We like to use at Station 11. We like to use the load off the back. We have a 500-foot, 2.5-inch load with the smooth bore off the back. That's typically what we use because, again, we have a cross lay that's 200 feet. A lot of times we're not going to reach that car fire with the 200-foot cross lay, especially if you're taking into consideration the vertical stretch. So we're going to go with the 500-foot load off the back, and we'll take apartment load. I've spoken about this before, and every time I talk about the apartment, it's actually the Cleveland load. We call it the apartment load, and Captain Gustin always cringes when I talk about the Cleveland load. He's not a fan. But so the company ascending will take the apartment Cleveland load with them, which is 250-foot sections of 1 3/4 with a fog nozzle and a gated Y on it, and that's what we call our Cleveland load. So the ascending company is going to take the Cleveland load, drop bag to the 2.5, stretch the 2.5 to where we need it to be, and then we're going to unscrew the tip of the smooth bore, and we're going to attach the gated Y onto the tip of that smooth bore, and we're going to charge that apartment load, and that's how we're going to work on that car fire.
Excellent. Now, let me ask you a silly question, because this is one of the things that we are now making sure that we do, is the officers are mandated if they're, and I don't know what your department's is, but are mandated to bring a thermal imaging camera. It's no longer treated as a car fire, because once you have the roof over it, you are in a structure fire. It's a car burning in a structure. So you're in a structure fire, radiant heat, the possibility of other things. They're bound to bring the thermal imaging camera with them to locate the car first off, and then to do a quick search for any occupants of the cars, any other people that are trapped, or anything else that's going on in there.
Yeah, absolutely, Cap. It's not mandated, but we take our thermal imager camera everywhere. We're fortunate in Clark County. Every unit has a thermal imaging camera on it. So that is with the officer at all fires all of the time. And even above ground parking structure fires, Captain Dugan. I had one. It was at the New York Hotel. We were the first truck on scene. There's already a couple engine companies on scene, and I'd never thought that I'd see this. I never thought this could happen. In an open garage, opened on four sides, the smoke was so heavy, and it was eventually 3 cars were burning. The smoke was so heavy that they had zero visibility. There was no crosswind whatsoever to ventilate that structure. The smoke was so heavy, the engine company could not even find the car without using the TIC. They were down low, searching row by row by row, and I never thought that could happen in a 4-sided open parking structure. And it took us, after they did find the fire, the engine companies did find the fire, we were in charge of ventilation. It took us 6 PPVs, 45 minutes to clear out that one floor of smoke. We put them all in a row and would move them 20 feet, move them 20 feet, move them 20 feet to try to push that smoke out. It was a big structure. It was a huge pain in the ass, but it was amazing to me to see that smoke just sitting inside in that parking garage and not going anywhere.
Clark, I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Captain.
No, go ahead, please, Sam.
Do you guys, you do a substantial amount of offloading behind those hotels? Do they do that underground or open air in the back?
Most open air. Most of the time open air, Sam.
Okay.
There is the Cosmopolitan Hotel. That's tricky. They have an underground, they have a huge underground. It's not really underground, but it's under roof loading dock. And they've got about 6 bays for 18-wheelers loaded up down there. It's a really big facility. But besides that, the majority of our properties are above ground.
Bill Gustin, Captain Gustin, are you with us?
Yeah, once again, Mike, you got my back. I had computer problems.
Okay.
A couple things I'd like to cover. Mike, you continue to be the moderator, okay?
Okay.
You got a good handle on it. First of all, I need to give a shout out to Bill Carey, who's really been helping me out with a lot of material and helped me in preparation for this presentation. In a payback, Bill is going to put a hashtag up, and we're going to recommend that if you are attending the pre-conference workshops, one that I am particularly interested in is the FDIC workshop Monday, April 23rd, from 8 to 12, and it is taught by a fellow from Germany, Marcus Vogt. That's V-O-G-T. He's the head of consulting and an instructor for the International Fire Academy, and his topic is management and underground transportation systems. Well, I have an interest in this now because my department now has a huge tunnel in our jurisdiction. It goes underneath a body of water and connects the mainland with the port of Miami, which is basically a peninsula. So the other thing I want to cover, fellas and ladies, is I want to make a very strong recommendation to all of us and our viewers to, once again, Bill is going to help us with this, is go to a link with Fire Rescue Magazine and read the report by the Texas State Fire Marshal on a fire that occurred in Texas in 2017, last year. It is an absolute must read. There'll be no commentary on it, but it is something that every firefighter from any size department has to read. And of course, the reasons for reading an LODD report is, could it happen here? And if it could, how are we going to avoid the same tragedy? Two more things. I have a humorous story about a parking garage, and you guys are going to think that I'm making it up. I rode with a large urban fire department somewhere in the United States. I won't mention where. In 1983 as an observer, and they, in their department, test dry standpipe systems, and they ask the in an indemnity agreement so that if they break a pipe, which is very common with a dry standpipe, the fire department will not be held liable. So they've got a company on the roof, and they've got a hose line and an inline gauge, and they've got a company pumping the FDC. It's a dry standpipe. Well, after a lengthy period of bleeding off the air, they're complaining to the driver engineer that they're not getting any pressure on the system. Well, I'm just an observer, and I can't get anybody's attention, but I can hear water running. And about the first 3 floors of this high-end building was a private parking garage. It had lattice work, brick with openings in it. Lattice. I could hear water running. Now, you're going to think I'm making this up. We finally got up there, and since it's a private parking garage, this guy had parked his Porsche convertible directly underneath a standpipe outlet, and the valve was open, and it looked like a friggin' hot tub. It was amazing, hilarious. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Captain Mike, if I can pose a question to the group, and it's something that we struggle with on my department. Guys, do you have any good suggestions for getting foam up to the upper elevations of a parking garage?
I don't, because we struggle with that too. We struggle with it. Now, I have seen good chauffeurs, if they're going into a car fire, what I've seen, I have seen, which I really thought was an excellent idea at a car fire, which was a car fire with electric fuel injection, and the car was still pumping gas, and the fuel line had burnt through. So it was pumping gas, and it was running down the street. One of the guys, who was just a brilliant guy, said, listen, let's twin it. with the Purple K, because our trucks carry the Purple K extinguisher, Purple K and the foam. And the engine chauffeur took a road cone and took the foam and dumped it right into the booster tank. Okay, right into the top of the booster tank, to the overfill of the booster tank, and dumped the foam in. And I thought that was a brilliant move. I thought it was a brilliant move. So
Fellas,
anybody else have any idea on the foam?
I was actually going to, I was hoping that you guys could help with that as well. So
We struggle with it, Sam. We struggle with it. Nobody does it well. We don't do it that often. The equipment is not, it doesn't maintain itself. Foam is not conducive to equipment. It rots it away. It is a huge issue. How about it, Jason? Anything on the foam?
No, I'm with Sam. I was kind of hoping to hear you guys that run those fires a lot, because we just don't do a lot of that. We don't use a lot of foam. I couldn't tell you the last time we used it.
Okay. All right, Clark, you're our last hope.
We carry some Class B foam in a Pro Pack. We have our engines are all pre-plumbed with Class A, but the Class B foam, remember the old Pro Packs? Before we had pre-plumbed foam systems, we all had Pro Packs. Well, we keep the Class B in a Pro Pack now, but like it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So if we need, we'll carry the Pro Pack up with the Class B, but it's not ideal.
Well,
Okay.
and I think one of the problems too is if you're trying to lay down a blanket because you have a fuel spill, it's going to run off the top, because we're dealing with grades for those cars to get up and down.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even getting your people up and down on the grades. Where are they walking? They don't know where it's turning. I mean, in that smoke. And as Clark said, that heavy car fire smoke with all the carbon and all of it's so thick, it doesn't move. It's heavy smoke. It's getting all over your gear and all over your stuff. Not even knowing where you're going, if you are going up and down the levels of it. I do like the Purple K for these fires. Bringing the Purple K, and you can use it with water or you can use it with foam. When they're fighting aircraft fires, they call it twinning. The Purple K and another extinguishing agent. I do like the Purple K for this because it does work very well.
I'm 100% with you, Mike. And for those of you in the Navy, that would be PKP, as they call it, PKP. I got a couple references here in research for today's program, and it actually addresses foam. An onboard foam system doesn't have the same pressure limitations as an inline ejector. And this article is Tactical Considerations for Fires in Above Ground Parking Garages by Chief Thomas O'Connell. And that would be in Fire Engineering on the web, 6/23/2014. The other is an excellent article written by Mike Kirby, Fighting Vehicle Fires in Parking Garages. I want to give a shout out to these two guys, Mike Kirby and Tom LeCamp. Just about every month, they have a short tactics article in Fire Rescue Magazine. Fellas are very experienced fire officers from Cincinnati. Good practical advice. It's a good read just about every month in Fire Rescue Magazine. So a shout out to our friends Tom LeCamp and Mike Kirby.
Chief Alton, what about you in Tulsa with the parking garages, or in your old stomping grounds of Albuquerque?
I don't think he's there, Cap.
Looks like he
Okay.
left the room.
Okay. Well, he's old. He might have had to go somewhere. So again, I think the parking garages, there should be an SOP. And as Clark had said, in his parking garage, even if it's open on the sides, the movement of air, unless you have a stiff breeze. And then the other issue is going to be conversely, if you have that stiff breeze, you're now going to have a wind-borne fire event, depending on what's going on in these structures and whether they're above ground or below grade. they're going to be a huge issue. Rotation of personnel, air supply, okay, is going to be huge because you don't want your people to be taking this kind of a feed. It's just going to be a big, big, big issue for us. And Captain Gustin keeps on popping in and out. He's doing great. Okay. But again, these things are a major issue. Does anyone have any SOGs for this? Clark?
We don't have an SOG for it, Captain Dugan. It is all handed down, word of mouth, experience, different crews doing different things. First in area guys know what they do with their first in area. Train on it. Make sure your company is going to be responding with you, are on the same page as you. Make sure those officers get together and talk about it. I remember one time we had one, the officer was an overtime officer, and I'm waiting for him to recon. I didn't realize he was an overtime officer. I'm waiting to get the recon report, and he's up there fighting the fire, and we're holding short. Like I said, we're waiting for him to tell us this is a side we're going to attack from. Bring your people up. Never said anything. Was not using good radio communication. So yeah, it caused quite a delay in the equipment getting up there that we needed, just because we didn't know who we were running with that day, and that was on me. That was absolutely on me. But as far as the guys on my side, south side of the strip, we run together. We know exactly what we're going to do. Truck company is about plan C or D if we have to use the truck as a standpipe. When the truck company shows up, we always position the truck company in a way that we can get a 90-degree angle and put that the bucket. Truck 11 has a bucket. We can put that bucket right against the parapet wall in the parking garage and take hose right off the front of that bucket if we have to as well. So that's important information we're waiting for the truck companies. Well, again, not ideal, but if A, B, and C don't work, what's D, E, and F? Have these things planned out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing that I like to see in this thing is I would love to see the departments, and we kind of develop a procedure for what you're going to do, because you guys on the south side where you are at a fire now. And now somebody else gets dispatched to this car fire, and they haven't done this before. Develop an in-house SOG for the department, I think, is a good thing to make sure you share with other companies that might backfill your spot during another fire, because it's always going to be that kind of situation where it does happen.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And for the most part, all the units that run on the strip are on the same page. About 20 years ago, I participated in just a real casual, hey, we're going to do everything, every single strategy possible we can think of to get water on a car fire, and we're going to time it. And we're going to figure out what's the fastest. And we did evolution after evolution after evolution, and we determined that the drop bag off the side was the fastest, and that kind of became the unwritten standard for car fires and above ground parking structures. And take the hose line up, take the 1 3/4 up. It's a bastard to try to fight a car fire with a 2.5 smoothbore, you know. So, 1 3/4 fog nozzle works like a champ on a car fire.
And do you have any procedures there, Clark, for underground garages? Do you have a couple of them, right? You have a couple of the split. Do you have any different procedures for underground?
We don't have any written procedures again.
Okay.
And that's Station 32. They're right against the Cosmopolitan. The Station 32 is right at the city center, and they are pretty much walking distance to the Cosmopolitan. It has a 4-story underground parking structure, and we've had a couple fires in there before. That structure is fully sprinklered. They do have standpipes throughout, but one thing they determine is a lot of times they know where the standpipes are. They've pre-planned it. They've walked it multiple times. You get down there with low visibility, they got turned around. They can't find the standpipes. They cannot find the standpipe hookups when they get turned around. So they're thinking it's better to just drop hose down now. Take hose packs with them and do a hose lay from the engine down the ramps into the basement of this Cosmopolitan hotel.
Excellent.
It's tough, it's tough making standpipe connections in zero visibility. So, and again, the cold smoke as well, because those sprinklers are going to activate cold smoke.
Cold smoke, absolutely. And then you're going to have your people rotated in and out for air management. And again, what about the people who were down there? It's a 4-story underground garage. What about the fires on the 3rd floor? Somebody was down getting their car on 4, and they're now trapped down there. Okay. And it's cold smoke. You're going to have a lot of searches. You're going to need a lot of help for these things. I mean, we had one in Brooklyn when I was a fire officer where we found a guy trapped in the stairwell and he couldn't get out. And he was in the corner of the stairwell hiding. And I mean, we found him, and it was a ways into this car fire. And it was an underground car fire that was opened almost like high windows in the old ranch houses up around. It was open to the air, but it was underground. And they only had about 1.5 feet of windows. And this guy was trapped down there. He was in bad shape. So you're going to have to do your searches. You're going to have to get your water. You're going to have a plan. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. What's the lowest parking garage you have in New York, Cap? How many floors underground?
The one that I know of, 1 6-story.
6-story underground.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a basement there, isn't it?
That's a hell of a basement. Hell of a basement. Yep. It's amazing too. In some of these places you go into in Manhattan where they park the cars underground and everything else. I mean, it costs you more to park the car than it does for a hotel room for the night. So, yep. So, Chief Alton, we were talking about these garages. Do you have any experience in them or anything you would like to share on that? But while we're bringing you in, I would like to first thank our sponsor, Key Hose. Keyfire.com, as Jason alluded to and Bill always alludes to, Key Hose. It's a great product. It's making traction throughout the fire service, and we definitely appreciate them sponsoring us, and we appreciate their continued sponsorship of the Hangouts. Chief Alton, please.
Yeah, we had a bunch of parking garage and below grade, and some of them were parking garages which actually weren't below grade, but they were just, garages. So you were kind of enclosed. But one of the things that we always went with our tactics, and of course this is maybe a little bit dated compared to some of y'all, but we went for high flow as fast as we could. And whenever we could, we went with foam. And one of the things we were always very concerned of was the concrete, right? Anytime you're dealing with a structure, you got to worry about structure protection, because exposure to post-tension, pre-tension concrete, that steel, that concrete, it can lose its integrity. And although it may look like no damage has occurred, the structural engineers and folks will come in and really have to assess it, right? So one of the things we always had in mind all the time was we tried to hit 2 lines, one for protecting the structure, the other one for hitting the fire. And we usually went with really high flow and then foam whenever we could. And a lot of it was just like renegade foam operations, right? Sometimes we had a lot of older equipment, so we would just batch mix. We'd throw a bucket of foam into the tank and dump it. And people used to talk about we'd have seal shrinkage back then because it was cork seals. So we used to deal with some of those issues. Today, I don't know what the synthetic seals, if that's as much of an issue, and even as foam proportioners, it's a much more elegant system today. But high flow and foam worked well for us, and we used to have problems sometimes with runoff, and then you have traveling fire, but that was really less significant. We tried to keep it from hitting the other car, which is always a big concern, getting 2 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars, kind of that deal going. But the issues of structural protection as well as maintaining, a good hit, a good knock on the fire were some of the things we looked at. Some of the stuff I'm looking at right now, and I'm working with some pretty smart cats, is we're looking at how's this going to happen down the road when we start having these, automotive related fires, when it's cars like Teslas and Hyundais and Chevy Volts. And, now you've got these fires in cars that have gigantic battery systems, which is a whole different fuel issue. And, it's going to be for the smart kids like Sammy and weazened elders like Billy, and to come up with, okay, you could have an electric car on fire next to a traditional car on fire, and you got some issues there. You got some stuff to think about in terms of containment, runoff, gases, gas production. What's the battery acidity do to concrete structures? And so it's a fascinating problem, and I think these fires are really, really important, really important fires. And what we're seeing here locally in the Southwest anyway, I can speak to that pretty definitively because I'm here a lot, is we're seeing these, what we're calling, the 1s and 5s and the 1s and 6s, where it's that non-combustible first layer, and then everything above that's a lumberyard, right? Well, that's one problem. But the parking garages they're building with them, I can't remember where we were, but we all started laughing. We were
King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, you and I.
That was me and you, but
Trusses.
just okay. So just recently, I'm traveling with some cats, and I can't remember where we were. Firefighters, true story. And we see one of these, 1 and 5s, like we were looking at, Mikey, right? Or 1 and 6s. Next to it is the parking garage, right? I swear to God, you can't make this stuff up. Solid concrete. The parking garage was a stouter building than where the people are going to live, and more fire resistant, and had more protection capability than where the people were going to live. So it's right out of the you can't make this stuff up category. But when we talk about these fires going forward, I mean, these are interesting problems, and this is where I think people, Billy and I talk about this all the time. Mess around with that 2-inch hose. Think about getting bigger flows. Play with your foam capabilities. The Boston guys are going crazy with foam right now. Talk to your brothers and sisters in Boston, because they're messing around hard and heavy with foam, and they're digging the results they're getting, right? And I think that the more quivers in your bow, the more bullets in your gun. That's why I use a Springfield Armory 9mm. I got an 18-round clip and one in the chamber. I'm a shitty shot, but sooner or later I'm going to hit you. So you want to have options.
And I think you're 100% right. And I think there are a couple of points. One that I want to bring up on this real quickly is you get the high-end cars in there. You're at one of the casinos that Clark has, and you got the Maseratis or the high-end Mercedes with the magnesium parts and the titanium parts, and that starts burning. And now you have a metal fire where it's breaking down the water into hydrogen and oxygen molecules. The other one that I want to just bring up is that 1 and 6 that you talk about. There's still going to be a stairway and an elevator. And that elevator shaft is not fire protected. And again, because the elevator can't be fire protected, because unless it's and a lot of places require it to be in a lobby, but not everybody in a residential requires it. In a motel, hotel, or something like that, they require it, but not all residential requires it. So it depends on where you are and what codes you're under. So it's very, very interesting stuff that we see there. And these fires are going to get very interesting for us. Go ahead, Sam.
No, I was going to say it kind of goes back to what you and the chief were saying. When we start looking at these electric vehicles, they're taking up to 1,000 gallons. They can burn for an hour, hour and a half. They've actually found these things that are reigniting once they get them to the salvage yard. So if they're continuing to burn because those batteries run down the middle of the car, we're going to have guys in smoke for a long time monitoring that. For us, you ask about SOPs, we're likely going to dispatch it as a car fire. Now, that's going to be up to our officers or our battalion chiefs to go ahead and balance that to a building fire, especially if you're dealing with attached residential or office buildings, because now you do have that smoke traveling the shafts, and you created a whole search issue. I'm going to try this. I want to bring this up real quick. This was one of our office buildings that got converted to a residential, and they put these let me try to bring it up. Okay, can you guys see that?
I got to put my glasses on, sorry. Oh yeah.
Okay, that's right in the middle is where the cars actually drive. So their answer to car storage is put it in an enclosed garage that sits on 1, 2, and 3, and they're going to valet these cars and park them on ramps and then lift them up and put more cars underneath them. So there'll be cars above us while we're working with our hose. Now I'm going to bring this one up. This is what concerns me. While the structural members have been protected, how long are those welds going to last if we get a good hot hybrid or EV fire?
Yep.
You know, Sammy, too, I've seen this same system for cars in a couple places, and they do it a lot with boats now. So marina fires, that's going to carry over to that deal. And the one I saw in outside of Branson, I think it was, I'm okay. I'm going to make up a number, but it looked like 10 or 12 boats high. I mean, it's like 10 stories. It was huge.
Sam, to your point too, and I just, with the different types of cars, you could have an energized piece of equipment as a car fire with the ones that are always plugged in, depending on how new that structure is. We're seeing a lot of those just around town, not in parks, but that's a whole other problem that you can run into.
And the other one that I have seen that's very similar to what Sam is talking about is I have seen now with repair shops where they go out and they have a car in and they put the car up on the lift and they leave it there overnight. So if they get a tow job during the middle of the night, they can back the car in under the other car and store it there. And I was at a car fire up in the South Bronx when I was a lieutenant, and I, in a shop, it was a shop fire, it wasn't a car fire, and I stood up and I hit my head on the gas tank of a Lincoln Continental. And I'm like, holy crap, I don't belong here. And we were under it. And think about it, in a lot of these shops that are not high-end shops, so to speak, that they have the safeties. What happens to the safeties on a lot of those lifts? They kind of bypass them to make them work and everything else. So it's amazing. And I think, Bill, don't you have a couple of places in South Florida where the cars go up into the apartments with these people? You got to unmute, Bill. We can't hear you, Bill. We can't hear you. No, you're muted now. Try it again. Nope. Okay. Well, Bill, you'll have to sign for us. Okay. Well, I know in some of the places in South Florida that Bill is going to join again as somebody else. But in some of the places in South Florida, you bring the car into the apartment, into the elevator, and it brings it up into your apartment, and you get off your car, you drive your car into your apartment up there. It's amazing. So are you with us, Bill?
Yeah, I have to tell you though that building is occupied primarily by retired FDNY firefighters.
As it should be.
Quite amazing. Yeah. So that's quite a building, and I think we're going to carry on for another month with this. And Sam, you think that's funny? By the way, that I've got to bust Sam Stone's every hangout. So I got a new mask. It's the Sam Hiddle face. So
somebody mute him.
Yeah. Okay. This is for you, Sam. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's back when he was a wee lad, though. He doesn't look like that anymore.
No, I look like that when you try to make me eat vegetables.
Yeah, it is a problem. And Mike, I have made that mistake. And before thermal imagers, Mike, it was very common for us to wait until the smoke clears in an auto repair shop and then look up and go, oh my God, there's cars over our heads. So I hear you on that. There's just one other thing I want to expand on, and you brought it up. I can't emphasize, and you brought this up initially, the importance of the dry chemical fire extinguisher. You can have all the foam in the world. You can't put out a pressurized, three-dimensional, running, spill, or vaporized fuel fire. You have to be able to suppress the flame in that flame interface between the liquid that's vaporizing and the fuel itself. But having said that, you've got to cool first. You've got to cool first with mass application of water, because the dry chemical is great for interrupting the chemical chain reaction. But if there are hot metal surfaces, if there are smoldering tires, it'll flash right back on you.
Yeah, I like the idea of the twinning. the dry chem and another extinguishing agent to cool. The aircraft firefighters do that a lot. I think it's a very, very intelligent way to go about these, especially in a confined space in an area. Because don't forget, you're in a garage. You're going to be radiating that heat back down onto the other vehicles around it. You're going to be radiating it onto the firemen. And as Chief Halton said, the concrete, I mean, I know a couple of fires where the guys have gone in and the older buildings that have been around and the concrete and the old rebar was really treated. And all of a sudden now, spalling concrete, you're getting chunks of concrete falling off the ceiling, and brothers and sisters in there operating hand lines getting hit by chunks of concrete. We don't want that. So again, we have to assess our buildings. We have to know where the cars are. And as we talked with Clark, where they're going to go there, where the standpipes are, we have to be able to figure that out. The thermal imaging camera is so important that everyone has one. We know where the line is going. We know if the hose is hitting the right car by looking at the thermal imaging camera and using it. These are all parts of what we got to do. But if we're going to do this as a professional, we got to do this very, very smartly. So, Clark, other points that you have on this?
Have a plan too. Have a plan. A lot of guys just poo-poo this and discount it because it's a car fire. Hey, we can handle a car fire, right? It's different. An elevated car fire, right? It's, you know, you're gonna have a delay. Don't fight the fire you have now. Fight the fire you're gonna have in 5 or 10 minutes, and you will have multiple vehicles exposed by the time you're there. You're gonna have crazy people trying to get their cars out of the way when you're up there trying to fight this fire, running over hose lines, oblivious people. And, you know, in Las Vegas, 50% of the time, 50% of the people are drunk. So you got you get an autoped walking up a ramp of a casino garage, and there's guys coming down. Hell, they're drunk and texting, and they're weaving back and forth, and you're trying to hump hose up there. You got to step out of the way. It's a lot of unique challenges. And we set a full alarm in Clark County. Car fire in a garage gets you a full alarm, which is 4 engines, a truck, a BC, and a rescue unit. That's how seriously we take it. Those are the resources you get for a single vehicle in a garage in Clark County.
And you forgot one thing. They're not only texting and driving, but they're also filming it because they can't call 911. They want to get that. They want to put it on Instagram or Snapchat or one of those other things and be the newest hero on the digital media. I'm going viral. But we have had fires now where they've had video and nobody's called 911.
Right. We had a fire a long time ago. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I got a question for both of you.
Okay.
Mike, you deal with the business high rises in Manhattan, and you're working on an all hazards safety plan. Do you ever address what is going to happen when there's a car fire at 5:10 in the evening and the parking garages and the ramps are totally bumper to bumper gridlock cars with people in them, and there is a fire? And that question was posed to me, and I was really like taken aback. I mean, other than just a mass fleeing to the stairways, I mean, what else are you going to do? Did they ever address this?
Most of the parking garages in New York City, you pull into the beginning of the parking garage and you get out of your vehicle and someone else parks it. They park them by asking you how long you're going to be. Going to be 2 hours, going to the theater, going to dinner, or whatever else. They'll park it. I'm staying overnight. That's going someplace else. That's going into a different spot. So most of the times the cars are being parked in New York by parking attendants. Attendants move the cars. You only bring it up to the front door of the place and they take it the rest of the way because they know where they're going to put it. So we don't have a lot of parking garages where there are a lot of people going in there. Some of the parking garages in high-end residential buildings do that, but they don't have that much traffic in there because there are not that many apartments. I was in one building down in Lower Manhattan about a year and a half ago, It was a 12-story building. In the 12-story building, there were 4 apartments. And it was an old stable. And they took the old horse elevator and they made it into a car elevator. And each person has 6 parking spaces underneath in the basement level, and it's fully sprinklered. But there were only 4 families living in this, and most of them don't live there full time. It's amazing. So I've never heard of one, Bill, where it's in New York like that. Now, I think in Las Vegas, it might be when people are coming into the casinos or leaving after a show, they might have a lot more people. And Clark might have a different perspective on this than I do.
Yeah, we don't, until you mentioned that, I never really thought about that, Captain Gustin. But you're right. And you're right, Captain Dugan. After the hockey game gets out or after the show lets out, you could be sitting in your car idling for an hour waiting to get out of the parking structure. Every single level is full of cars. That's an interesting concept. I've never thought of that before, but that's got a lot of potential, catastrophic potential there. Huh.
No, I'm going to research that and get back with you because you guys kind of inspired me. And I was thinking about it, and when the occupants of the business high-rise asked me, I really didn't have a good answer other than go for the stairways. Get out and go for the stairways and try to go up ramp rather than down ramp because you're not going to outrun the fuel. But it's a dangerous predicament to be in, and we're lucky that we haven't experienced it. But it has to have happened somewhere. But Clark, the people want to get in their cars and they want to leave, and like you say, they'll drive over you and they'll drive over the home. It's
yeah, absolutely.
It's a real problem.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
I want to expand on what Bobby said. He talked about the post-tension concrete. Most of ours, in fact, we had a catastrophic collapse, which trapped and killed some workers when it was under construction, are precast. It's almost the opposite of post-tension, where the concrete is pretty much cured, and then they tension these cables. And the cables are in sheets with the post-tension. With the precast, they are intimate with the concrete itself, and the cables are tensioned before the concrete is poured. But in both cases, you're right, Bobby, that you're going to have spalling. And once the concrete is spalled off and the cables are exposed, that is what's giving the concrete its ability to span between 2 bearing points, because there's no tensile strength in concrete itself. It's a composite of metal. Lose that tension that's actually putting the concrete in compression between a girder and a column, and the member will sag, and I don't care how it's restrained with what type of welded embedments, you're going to have a catastrophic collapse. So spalling is, well, just look at a bridge fire when they have a tanker underneath. It's a catastrophic loss for the Department of Transportation.
Absolutely. And we're getting near our time here, Bill. I think
I think the just real quick, Mike, one of the biggest cases, if you guys or gals are watching, you want to Google a good one, it kind of plays into this. Remember our friends in Atlanta had that, it was actually PVC pipe stored under the bridge, but once that pipe got going, that bridge repair, I think, is still under repair because the concrete and such got in such disrepair. Shannon, if you're ready, let's show that real quick. I want to show you guys something. This goes back many years. It's a very old photo, as you'll see here in a moment. Contains some historical references. Shannon, I'm not seeing it yet. Shannon, could you put that up? Bill, you might want to take a look. Bill's probably remember some of this. Shannon, what's going on? I'm not seeing any of it from anybody. Shannon, if you can't do it, then
I think I just saw something up there.
I'm not seeing anything.
It was Bill and somebody else. There we go.
There you go. If it's on the hover over and then click on the fire engineering icon on the talk, and that'll bring it up to the picture up to the full page.
I got it.
You guys have it?
Yep.
Well, what
Yeah.
you're looking at there is it's an archived photo from around the 18th century. That's just kidding. So I thought we'd take a couple minutes here to congratulate our good friend. That's my good friend Chief Dave Downey and my dear friend Bill Gustin. And what you see in that photo, I'm not seeing it, but what hopefully everybody else is seeing is our dear friend Bill getting his commemorative plaque there for 40 continuous years of service to Metro Dade and the citizens there, and not just continuous service, but continuous exemplary service. Probably very few folks have matched the intensity and passion that Bill has brought to that community, to his crews, to the fire service. But there you see a gentleman who I think is the epitome of fire service leadership from the management side and from the chief's side in Chief Dave Downey, standing next to an icon of the fire service and a man who represents everything that you'd expect in a good firefighter, everything that you'd hope in a good friend, and just about everything you could dream for in a parent and in a member of the community. He's given his life to that community. He's devoted his life to his children and his family. And I know his dad is up there looking down with a smile from ear to ear with some kind of Chicago giant meat sandwich dripping with fat, saying, "We got one for you when you get here, kid." And Bill, congratulations, 40 years well spent, and God bless you, and way to go, and what a tremendous achievement.
Well, thank you, Bobby. And I like sharing it with I've got my good friend here, Nick, and we were going to do something a little different, but we had computer problems, and thank goodness for Mike that got my back again. But the department's been very good to me, and it's been. I wish I was a young man on the fire department again, but I'm not. So they have actually prolonged my career by allowing me to transfer into the training division. So they've got me doing some interesting things, and I'm really engaged in it and learning a lot. And so, it was today that I actually, the day I got the plaque today, there it is. But it will be March the 6th is when I started, in March the 6th, 1978. And my first job was to shovel out after the horses and then wash the wagon wheels. But we come along.
March 6th. What did you say? March 6th,
March 6th,
1878? 1878?
No, 1778. It was Benjamin. I was recruited by Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
Yes.
I heard he was your probie.
No, I was his probie.
Okay. Congratulations, Brother Bill. Well deserved.
Congratulations, Brother Bill.
Congratulations, Bill. Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks
Well,
a lot, guys.
I
Appreciate
wanna-
it.
You know the expression older than dirt? Well, there's dirt.
There's dirt. Well, I want to say that is a great way to wrap this up. I think it's time. Congratulations to our Brother Bill. Thank you to Keyhose once again for sponsoring us. We appreciate everything. And we will talk to you next month. And I think we might continue some of this construction and fires and the other stuff. And Bobby has something to say.
Next week, Rick Lasky and I will be bringing you a special presentation. We're going to be visiting with our friends at Phoenix Fire Helmets. They've got a museum out in Riverside, California. I'll be on site, so we're going to see some antique helmets. We're going to see some history there of that group, and get a little California flavor out there in Riverside. So, hey, join us next week for the Humpday Hangout. We'll be live from Riverside, California at the Phoenix Fire Helmet Museum, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you all. Thanks again, Keyhose.